Most people misunderstand letting go. They imagine it as weakness, as failure, as something you do when you're no longer strong enough to fight. I used to judge people for it. I thought real strength meant holding on no matter how uncomfortable, no matter how draining. That belief sounded noble, but in reality it was just fear dressed up as discipline. Life eventually forces you to confront that illusion, usually not gently. The uncomfortable truth is that holding on can slowly destroy you without making a sound. It doesn't explode. It doesn't warn you. It just shows up as constant exhaustion, quiet bitterness, and a strange emptiness you can't explain. You keep telling yourself you're being patient, loyal, responsible, but deep down you know something is off. One day you realize you're fighting for something that no longer exists, or worse, never truly did. Here's something people avoid admitting. Not everything you lose is a loss. Some things leave because they've already taken everything they were meant to give. The problem is that we don't hold on to situations as much as we hold on to the story we tell ourselves about them. We cling to identity. If we stop struggling, who are we then? The victim, the fighter, the one who endured. Those roles become comfortable, even addictive. I watched someone stay in a job they hated for over a decade. Not because they had no options, but because the suffering gave them structure. Complaining became routine. Stress became familiar. When you build your identity around endurance, peace feels suspicious. Freedom feels irresponsible. Pain at least feels known. Letting go would have meant facing the terrifying question of who they were without the struggle. There's a quiet trap in that. Familiar pain feels safer than unfamiliar peace. That's why people stay in situations long after the cost becomes obvious. They convince themselves that consistency is loyalty and endurance is virtue. But sometimes endurance is just fear refusing to admit it's tired. Sometimes strength isn't about holding on, but about recognizing when you're only surviving instead of living. I once held on to an argument for years. Not a person, not a relationship, just an argument. I replayed it in my head, refining my points, imagining how I should have responded. It took me an embarrassingly long time to realize the other person had moved on completely. I was the only one still investing emotional energy into something that had ended. That's when it hit me. If something keeps looping in your mind, it's often not because it matters, but because your ego hasn't finished with it. Letting go doesn't happen when you understand something logically. It happens when you get emotionally exhausted. When the effort of carrying something becomes heavier than the fear of putting it down. People love to say, just let it go, as if it's a switch. It's not. It's a slow detachment full of doubt, second-guessing, and moments where you almost turn back just because it's familiar. I knew someone who stayed in a relationship long after respect had disappeared. Love wasn't the issue, respect was. When respect dies, you start editing yourself, shrinking your opinions, choosing silence over honesty. Leaving didn't make them happy. It made them empty. And that emptiness terrified them more than the relationship ever had. But emptiness isn't the enemy. It's space. And space is where clarity begins. We're addicted to emotional noise. Drama gives us something to focus on. Even pain can feel meaningful when it fills every thought. Letting go removes the noise, and suddenly you're alone with yourself. That silence forces honesty, and honesty is uncomfortable. That's why people run back to what hurts them. At least suffering distracts you from asking real questions. Here's my blunt opinion. Some people don't actually want peace. They want familiarity, even if it costs them their growth. Letting go requires accepting that you were wrong about something, about a person, a dream, or a version of yourself. The ego hates that. It would rather stay unhappy than admit a misjudgment. That's why people defend situations that are clearly hurting them. I had to let go of a version of myself that constantly sought approval. That version played it safe, avoided conflict, and chose comfort over honesty. It wasn't a bad version, just a small one. Letting it go felt like betrayal at first. But staying loyal to an outdated version of yourself is a quiet form of self-abandonment. Growth demands discomfort. There's no way around that. Here's a simple rule I've learned. If something in your life requires constant justification, it's probably no longer aligned with you. When you're in the right place, explanations become unnecessary. Peace doesn't need a defense. Alignment feels calm, not convincing. Letting go doesn't instantly make life better. Sometimes it makes life quieter, lonelier, even boring. But boring is underrated. Boring is stable. Boring is where discipline forms and self-respect grows. Chaos feels exciting, but it drains you. Calm feels empty at first, but it builds something solid underneath. People expect transformation to be dramatic. It rarely is. Most of the time it's invisible. It's choosing not to respond, not to explain, not to chase closure. Closure is often just acceptance wearing a different name. You don't always need answers. You need boundaries. The biggest shift happens when you realize peace is more valuable than being right, more valuable than winning arguments, more valuable than proving your worth. Letting go isn't erasing the past. It's removing its authority over your present decisions. And the strange thing is, once you truly let go, you stop needing constant motivation. You move differently. You think more clearly. You choose with intention instead of impulse. Not because life becomes easier, but because you stop carrying what was never meant to be carried forever. That's the hidden power of letting go. Not a miracle, not a shortcut, not a motivational slogan. Just quiet strength finally directed towards something that actually allows you to move forward.